Come one, come all. Welcome back. We have Dr. Sabba Quidwai here to talk all about AI and education. I'm Scott Meyer, co-founder of Chipp, and we talked a week ago about the importance of building an AI team, not just using AI to be efficient. And we're so excited to dive in on how to do that and why that matters. So Sabba, tell me what's exciting you right now in the AI world the past week. What are you kind of reading, watching, looking at that we should share before we dive in?
I am both equal parts excited and equal parts freaked out by everything that came out last week. But we're gonna focus more on the excited part because I think the thing that got me really excited was reading the Shopify CEO's memo. If you sort of Googled, if you haven't seen it and you would have Googled, be like, what are Scott and Thaba talking about? And you would have Googled Shopify CEO memo, all you would see is one sentence from a two-page thing. And
Yeah.
that is, if you want more headcount, tell me why AI can't do the job first. People freaked out. There it was. And even when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, another one about job. But then, I was a history teacher. So it's always go back to your source, read the original, right? And when you go back and you read it, that one sentence, yes, might have sounded a little harsh, but the entire rest of the email was, how do we be more ambitious? How do we 10x what we can do now that we have these tools that are our teammates? And it's so motivating and it's so encouraging. And all he's trying to do in the whole email is be like, we can be more, we can do more. And even though it sounds crazy, the tools just make it so possible that it's actually not as ambitious as it might seem.
And I think it's a big flip for me when I advise schools or other businesses. It's always, how do you bring AI in? Like I often say, bring AI into the room. But I liked how Toby from Shopify said, almost flip it. Like, first, should a person come in the room? Like, check if AI can do it first and then bring the humans in. I think that's going to be a change that people feel. And I think, especially as you're looking at what are we hiring for? Like, it's maybe not so much, is this person going to be hired or not, but it's what are the bullets on their job description? Like, does this bullet need to be there? Or could we remove that task, or most of the time remove the task so they can have a different bullet?
Can I just say, that is what I wish more people would do instead of rushing to get an AI tool, especially in school. I feel
Yeah.
like in businesses, they can pivot and they can go midway. So they can start with a tool, it's just a different scenario. But in education, I wish people sat down with especially teachers and looked at the things they were doing. Not only do you need to be doing this, but do we collectively as an organization need to be doing this? And I think it would drastically change the criteria for how people adopt tools.
That's amazing. Well, I think you have a great example. You were working with this school recently, just this problem. So maybe you can share a little bit of the background and then we can dive in. You can show us what you were able to build on such a quick timeline.
I am excited to show this example. And I'm excited to show this example because it really caught me off guard. So it's a very authentic experience. So if you know anything about me in designing schools, you know that when I actually first started pre-AI, I had one focus and one passion that's still very much alive. And that is helping young kids make portfolios and as they get into high school, make LinkedIn profiles to go and network and all that stuff. These tools are free and it just blows my mind that we don't do this. Anyways, with AI and now people rethinking assessment, portfolios once again have this opportunity. So we've been working with schools and districts on helping kids turn assessments into portfolios and
Hmm.
papers into projects and things like that. So this was supposed to be a three-part series. And initially the superintendent and the teachers who were part of this team were like, okay, we'll make it a 2-year project. We'll start it this year with a teacher training. And then next year, we'll kind of scaffold it more directly into the classes. Literally the day before the workshop, okay, the day before the workshop, he calls me and he's like, you know what? It's right before spring break. And I think the kids would just be really motivated to hear from you and to hear about portfolio. Literally, he said this. Josh Van Norman, you can go ask him. He's like, I feel like I caught you off guard. And I was like, yeah, that's not a small thing to go in front of a bunch of eighth graders and virtually. They don't even know me. So I was very worried about that. But I was like, you know what? Let's just do it. And I want that to be the first lesson because one of the things that I think is really going to differentiate people in this moment to answer your question about the bullet points and adding new bullet points is, are you just willing to try something? If I could have easily said, no, we didn't plan for that. Let's stick to our schedule, but I didn't. And I'm so glad I didn't, even though I was super freaked out. So anyways, what we ended up doing was putting together a little bit of an intro for the students on Canva. And we talked to them about their strengths and basically brainstorming projects. And I did not think, I knew one or two of them would have projects because he had told me every single kid had this insane project that they wanted to share. They knew what they wanted to share. They knew why they wanted to share it. And I think this is like lesson number two. Your kids are ready for so much more than we are willing to bring to them. And so what we did for them then was like, okay, they're ready. Like they just basically need a little bit of support. And so we created a little AI team to help them in the process. So let me share my screen and I'll just share with
Yeah, you share it. And while you're pulling that up, it's like I think there's this fascinating takeaway, which is we potentially slowed kids down because of the technology, right? Like we didn't let them go build things because it was too hard for the teacher to build 25 different lesson plans for every kid in the class. So we just kept everyone together, which was a necessity of the tools and the structure. And it's like if you reimagine that, like if you think kind of like back to our leading point about what happens if you ask could AI do this first? Like before we say, I'm going to build the lesson plan, could AI help us? And then have the teacher come in. So yeah, show us. It looks amazing. Can't wait to see what you did.
And I just want to say, like, this is not me. Like, this is the beauty and magic of Canva. I just took this image and I just replaced it. That's all I did. So Canva makes things so easy. And I think it's so important to know these tools are so accessible to everyone. So this is kind of the theme of it. It's called Irreplaceable. Share your story, grow your network, and design your future. And in here is basically the teacher's guide for the deck. So this is how we kind of prepare for this experience. The first one we do is like their skills and strengths. But one of the things that we did in here is separate out where we want the students to kind of draft and take notes, and then where the teacher will introduce the AI piece. So this is just like, a little fun quote for them. But basically, the first thing they're going to do is take what's called the spark type. And we really love the spark type because I think no matter how old you are, it's actually really hard to talk about yourself. And even if you can talk about yourself, a lot of times the things that are really great about you are way too ordinary to you for you to realize they need to be highlighted. So, what I love about the spark type is it's not so much a personality test, it's more like this is the type of work that energizes you. So, if you're trying to write an about me for a cover letter or for a LinkedIn profile or just for your own self awareness, it's an amazing tool. It also does the opposite. It also tells you what drains you. And a lot of people think that what drains you is like negative, but it's not. And so, like, a lot of times we do these like personality tests with these assessments and we get this really rich data, but it's like, what do you do with it other than letting it sit in as a PDF, like on your desktop? So the students do this. We have some questions for them. They do this with notes. And then we tell them you're going to come and meet your AI team. So we're introducing this concept to them of AI as a teammate, but we're also very intentional about really defining what we want them to do and what the AI will do. And I think with kids, I'd say even with adults, I do think you have to be very intentional and transparent in the beginning as you are building these habits, as you are building these mindsets. Again, really just for self awareness. So we tell them, like, this is what AI can help you with, but this is what you have to still do as well. And then this is the beautiful part. This is their AI team, and this is their first chatbot. So they come over here, and this is just a screenshot of a Chipp chatbot, and they can come over here and they can click it. But right then and there, they literally have a brainstorming teammate that can support them in reflecting on the results that they got. So they can come over here and they can start chatting. And this is actually something I learned from you that I really love as just a design feature. And that is click here to begin because it ensures that if the process is going to go well right from the start, that somebody's not going to write something that might throw something off. And so I think this was just like such a great tip. So when they go click here to begin, we tell them they can either upload in their results, add screenshots, or anything else at all. Now, there's also a piece here where if they have not taken the Spark type, they can say, I haven't taken it yet. And what it's going to do is basically redirect them to the link. So they can come here, they can click here, and now it's basically going to open up the Spark type website for them. So to me, that's the type of friction, right, that sometimes exists when they're doing these kinds of projects and they're doing these kinds of things. Well, I didn't do that. I don't have the link. I don't have this. And I think when you've got like 30 kids in a room, the fact that that problem and that friction can be removed because you have your like teammate teaching partner here doing and supporting you in this process just really mentally frees you up for really rich conversations with kids. And so it's like, okay, let me know your results. So I can just come in here. I know my spark type. So I'm a scientist. And so I can come here and do that. First, it's going to ask me for a short story about where I use these strengths or felt energized. I don't have to keep going, but basically it's just going to go through and kind of brainstorm ideas with them. And this is all a build up because Later on in this process, the next piece is going to be for them to write an about me. Okay. We want kids to have a really good about me, like they're getting ready to apply for scholarships and, internships and all these different kinds of things. And it's the exact same format. We're telling them where to take notes, some of the things to fill out. And then here's your AI team that's going to help you. The next one is around a project. What's a story you can share and why? So they've got their strengths, they've got their about me, they've got their project they're ready to share, and like boom, their portfolio is like ready to go. And for each of these, they have a little chatbot to support them along the way. So that's sort of like the highlight of what that is. First of all, it's just not common. Like you walk into any place and ask, do your kids have a portfolio? Like, do they have a website link? Canva is free, LinkedIn is free, Chipp is relatively free. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just
Yeah.
depends. But these tools are so accessible that it's just like, why are we not? So I feel like when you see the Shopify CEO's memo, like, sure, AI can go and be that chatbot, but the person like me who's going to take that initiative, design those new experiences, 10x what's possible in my classroom, those are the kinds of people that will always have a place in the world today.
So I often say that AI is the world's best cover band, but you still need the original song to base it on, right? And so people who are willing to be the creators are going to have big impact. And I think we talked about this last time, but the ability to upload an image and turn it into Studio Ghibli is really exciting, but it is still remixing that original image. And so I see teachers' role to be like creating that original image or that original chatbot or that original project concept or whatever it might be, because what they need to write a great, cover letter or to get a scholarship or to further their career or think creatively. It's like the other phrase I think really sums it up well is, you are the strategy and AI is the execution. And so I think for educators, like you are the methodology, you could say it that way. And the AI is the execution of your methodology, right? So you can still control how it speaks and let the students then interact with that. So the other thing I love about what you did is how you had different chats for different parts of the process.
Yeah.
And I think that's really helpful, like focus it in on a core use. They're not talking about, with ChatGPT, you can get an answer, you can talk about anything under the sun, but in an educational setting to say, this is for this one thing and control, like put limits on it is really helpful.
I think that's really important because I think it's a mistake I see with people. Like they try to create like the design thinking chatbot or the portfolio built in chatbot. And I think this really reinforces why AI can be really good at tasks as part of a bigger workflow when you are looking to redesign things. Because now, when I go to build the workflow chart and I'm looking at, okay, what is like the teacher doing? What is the AI doing? I can break it down and be very transparent. But I also think it reduces like errors, mistakes. The chatbot doesn't get confused between so many different things. You can very specifically keep everything targeted. And maybe I'm the micromanager. Maybe I'm a micromanager. That's like being the leader of your AI team, but being really micromanaging over every single part of the process.
I love that. No, it's great. And it's agnostic of topic, right? This can be social studies, this can be English, this can be music. It's just so applicable.
The Canva design took me longer than the chip.
Yeah. No, that's great. When you saw students engaging with it, was anything surprising about how they talked about it? Maybe was it really hard for them, really easy, or did they talk about to it in interesting ways, or what did you kind of learn?
So this all happened within the span of 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
like we just shared this out yesterday because, okay, so their session was the week before last on the Friday, because remember, he was like, come talk to them before spring break. And I think everyone collectively in the room. So remember, when I went into that session, there was no plan to give the students the rest of these things. The plan was to do that with them next year. And so because of what we saw on Friday, we were like, why are we waiting till next year? They're ready to move now.
Yeah.
And I think, again, if you haven't read the Shopify CEO memo, I just feel like there's such synergy between this example and that, because he says, like, we can 10x our capability in what we do, which sounds crazy. But because these tools make things so easy for us to execute on, like you said, you can literally have an idea on a Friday, let the kids go to spring break, or even if we had to do this sooner, we could have done it sooner, but they had spring break in the middle. Today is their first day back, and now they're going to get this. That's wild. Like that the timeline just went from a year and a half to like 2 weeks.
It is wild. And it's interesting because it is a new muscle, I think, for schools, for school districts, right? To not wait so long to implement. That's going to
Exactly.
be fascinating how people can reimagine what timelines look like. Or, what I see a lot of people doing with Chip that I think is so exciting is coming to meetings with a demo instead of going to a meeting, talking about it, and then going to build a demo is like, you come to that teacher all hands meeting and just say, hey, we thought about building a tutor for this thing. Here's what it could be like, right? And it doesn't have to be perfect, but it gets people to talk about a thing instead of theoretically what we could do in the future.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why like the design thinking, I mean, whatever, I'm biased, but like to me, that's why the design thinking mindset is so important because that muscle that you just talked about, I don't know how else you build it other than design thinking. But I will say the other thing I really appreciate about Chip, I mean, I did this for my book, but if you are going to take a demo and you are going to do that, to be able to white label it and to put it into somebody's branding and to actually show them like on your website, like mock it up. Like it's so easy to do these days with these tools, mock it up, integrate the chatbot, do a live demo as if it's already made. I mean, just visually, I think people have a much better understanding versus saying like, oh, well, we can white label it and it could look like this. Like, no, just show them
Just
because
do it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It shows too that like the little technical things don't have to be the big idea. The big idea is your idea, right? Like that's just the container to distribute your knowledge or your expertise. So improve the thing that matters, right? Or worry less about the PowerPoint and more about the ideas in the PowerPoint, basically. Yeah. That's cool. Well, let me show another team example. I think that's a great one in the classroom. And we have lots of ideas of AI teams. So as an educator, you obviously have the classroom, you also have administrators. And so had a really cool use case of Chipp for administration I wanted to share. And while I get that up, just a little call out, some of the stuff that we are making available. We just launched this week our Chipp Academy. So everyone can sign up. This is totally free. It's chip.disco.co. And when you're here, we have a course on how to AI. We have a course on AI in action. And I wanted to show that because everything we're talking about, we're breaking down into a mini course so you can learn about AI in education as well as AI generally. So definitely go check that out. We also have a page you can get all of these use cases we're talking about. So just chip.ai/education shows some of these use cases. And the one I wanted to showcase is this school, Ridgewood High School. And this is actually a client of one of our partners. So Growth AI Partners out of Chicago works with Ridgewood. And they had a challenge that I think a lot of schools have, which is a lot of our time is spent answering the phone, talking to parents about really basic stuff, right? So how do you cut administrative time, do more with less by using AI? And so what we have is Chipp Chat that they're building out, which is just answering questions for parents about registration, about key deadlines, about what they need to know. It's multilingual because they have a large Spanish speaking population. And it was really easy to train because we just clicked add knowledge sources and we added their website. So you can see these are all the pages from their website. And so the funny part is like all of this information is already live. It's already there, but parents, and I'm guilty of this as well, they just don't look, right? And so giving them one place on the website, a little bubble that they can ask questions and find the answers is such a time saver. And I'll kind of show you the prompt. The prompt is again, just an easy way to talk to an AI. And, we're making this a short responses, 3 to 5 sentences, like a text message. And we're welcoming them. We're reminding them to speak any language. And then we're always driving them to human support if they want it. So what we've typically seen is like 60 to 70% of questions just want AI. They just want the facts. And then, 30, 40% actually want to talk to somebody. And so this is a pretty easy prompt. We're just saying like, provide simple answers, ask questions they might want. If you don't know the answer, that's okay. Let them know you can look it up and then just keep engaging. And then everything we have here is just the attached URLs have all the details. So it's really a pretty simple prompt, doesn't take long to build. And then you just add in the website. And then when you start having questions, like you can just have this conversation. So now parents can go there and they can ask questions about, when is registration for, 2025 or 2025 school year, right? And you can even connect in private data, right? So if you wanted to have information about who made the junior varsity team or the varsity team, right? Like you can all do all of that and it's going to be trained on the school's information. So that was just such a fun, simple, quick use case that actually is going to save their administrators like a ton of time. So really excited to kind of get that launched and share that out. So yeah, I think it's really fun to see how you can build AI teams, for the classroom, for administration and more, and how quick and easy it is. So my thought, Saba, is maybe in 2 weeks, we'll do a live build and we'll take what we've learned about AI teams and how to create them, and we'll take some requests. So if you're not yet connected to Saba on LinkedIn, you should be. Search for her on LinkedIn and send her a message and ask her what you want her to build. And in 2 weeks, we're going to build it live on camera. Anyone will join is welcome to join. So we will add that event to the Chipp Academy. So the Academy has all of our events. I'll go ahead and share my screen real quick so people can see that. But yeah, on the Academy, you'll see an events tab, and we'll add an event here for our live build, and we'll build whatever you ask. So get in your request to Sabba, and we'll build something live in 2 weeks as we continue to explore how AI is changing education. Sabba, anything else you want to close on as we kind of think about looking at AI first and reflecting on some of the messages that have gone around regarding the Shopify memo?
Like I said, I'm equal parts excited, equal parts scared. And I think if you want to be somebody, I think if you are scared, I think so many people need fear, but I think fear is such a good motivator. Being irrelevant and the fear of irrelevancy, being replaced or whatever is such a good motivator. Use it, because I feel like every time you do, like, you always just surprise yourself by how much more you can accomplish. So bring your ideas.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, we will share the links to what you built for the school along with the chatbots on YouTube, and then as well as the Academy. And we can't wait to see everyone in 2 weeks. So Sabba, thanks for the time, for sharing, and we'll see you online.
Bye.